It appears that once again changes on the horizon for Formula One. Practice sessions being abolished, sprint race weekends being changed up, 2 lots of qualifying, and listen, I'm kind of here for it. Not all change is good, granted, but that doesn't mean I don't think we can do a better job. Let's talk about it. Because this is a quote from Stefano Domenicali, CEO of Formula One. I am a supporter of the cancellation of free practice sessions, which are of great use to the engineers, but that the public do not like. Now, this was quoted from Sport TV, which I believe is a Portuguese media outlet. F1 have tried to kind of walk back these comments somewhat. However, there is definitely a degree of underlying truth to this, that not necessarily removing and cancelling all of free practice, reducing the amount of free practice, more competitive running on a Friday, for example, which is what we get with sprint races. It's inevitable that these things are going to change. We even had quotes from George Russell talking earlier today, F2 and F3, those junior drivers deserve more practice than they actually get. They don't get much at all. And how George was at first against sprint races. He didn't particularly like them, but now we've had a few. He's settled into it. He enjoys them. There is no point fighting it. It's going to happen. There will be some kind of competitive running on Fridays. You look back to 2020, Imola, that was a 2-day weekend where you had nothing on Thursday, you had all media on Friday, then you had 1 practice session which replaced free practice free, and then you had qualifying. So with that shortened weekend, it was a much better from the team personnel point of view, in terms of staff, in terms of race crews. This is a tough job. It's not as glamorous as it's made out to be. Yes, you fly around the world, but jet lagged all the time in economy. You don't see your family. Anything that the sport can do to minimise the impact on driver crews, I still think more should and could be done within the cost cap to allow for rotating pit crews and all that, because it is incredibly labour inducive. It's the unglamorous work that we as fans don't see, and we take for granted ultimately. It's also important to bear in mind, most viewers, most people watching are not hardcore fans like us, okay? If you're here watching this, there is a degree of assumed intelligence that I have in all of you, that you're here. You've got a good understanding of F1, you've got keen interest because you're watching some random bloke chat on YouTube about it. But most fans who, buy merchandise, who buy tickets, most aren't as hardcore as us. From a business point of view, from a commercial point of view, it has to work more for them than it does for us. Now, obviously, in an ideal world, it works for everyone equally. That is somewhat the case, but also be honest, right? Are you more likely to watch F1 coverage on a Friday if there is qualifying instead of just practice? Do I watch every single practice session, every single race? No. Most of the time I have it on in the background. And then I'll just kind of have it loud, and then if I hear anything like, oh my God, I'll go and see what's going on. And I've got the privilege of being able to do that because my work on a Friday isn't in an office. My work on a Friday is consuming the F1 and making videos and writing scripts and all that, right? 72% of you, even of us more hardcore, more engaged, more interested F1 fans, 70% of us are more likely to watch on a Friday, to go out of our way to watch on a Friday if there is qualifying, a competitive session, versus if there is just practice. Friday competitive running is going to happen for every race. It makes sense. More people view, more people watch. They're gradually rolling out sprint races. We've got 6 this year. And whether that's the exact format, I don't know, and we'll talk about that. And the other thing to consider is, of course, the global time zones. Now, obviously, if the sport is going to move to a less European-centric calendar, having competitive sessions that work at a time that works for as many different people, as many different markets, not just the European market, but also the American market, South and North, and you go Far East, in the kind of Middle East as well. And if we get a race in Africa, that's going to only add to the likelihood of that fan base growing too. So in a timely way for everyone, that's what I'm saying. Blank sheet of paper. How does an entire F1 weekend look? What's your ideal based on what the sport is now? Again, increased fan base, increased casual following, taking that into account. 23, probably should be 24 races really. My suggestion for Thursday is that it stays as media. The media marketing staff salaries are not included in the cost cap. You can have more people, you can spread that workload more evenly. The drivers, sorry, but you're doing full days on Thursday. Media. You look at how the sport's growing, there's more sponsors than ever now. I mean, McLaren are announcing one every other day, it seems. That's going to put more obligations on the drivers to do media. Track walk, get all that stuff done. Okay, so Friday's a bit more interesting. So first of all, I think it's a really good thing about practice is that it does give these opportunities to these young drivers to have a go in F1 machinery. For me, Friday morning, even more media for the drivers. And I'm not sorry. It's twofold, really. Increased sponsor requirements, increased fan base. And when I say media, I mean like going and meeting fans and like going to fan zones and all that stuff. For me, that's all part of it, because that is as much media as it is, doing some TikToks or whatever. Really using that Friday morning session. No cars on track, no F1 cars on track. Because as well as that, you're also then pushing back when the engineers, when the race teams, the race crews have to set things up. It's kind of in between what they did in Imola in 2020, but not having it Friday morning, having it Friday afternoon. A little bit of time sensitivity off of the race crews, so they can arrive a little bit later. I think it needs to be a bit more sustainable from their point of view. I know drivers moan about media, but as far as I'm concerned, deal with it. Like, it's a small price you've got to pay for the privilege of being an F1 driver and racing these cars, because without the fans, you don't have a job. That's the reality, because without the fans, you don't have sponsors who watch. Without the sponsors, you don't have money to go racing. Having the drivers do more with fans and be more available for that stuff, even than they are now, I don't have an issue with it. Raikkonen would have hated this suggestion. Yeah, he would. So then in the PM, I'm doing FP1. It's 2-hour FP1. Instead of having an FP1 and FP2, I'm putting that time together and then moving it into the PM, just packaging it differently. FP1 it's the first time you see cars on track. Within that 2 hour, you would have to put your reserve. You'd still do that whole reserve driver thing. You would put them in for an hour. Teams can prepare beforehand. They can get the seats set up and all that. The difference between doing 2 1-hour sessions and 1 2-hour session in terms of efficiency and in terms of time saved from a race crew point of view. Because then, after FP1, 15-minute break, 1-shot qualifying in reverse FP1 order. Yes, I'm still banging the 1-shot qualifying drum. 1-shot qualifying will set the grid for the Saturday sprint. Oh yes. Just give me the job already. Like, my version of F1 will be phenomenal. Evening, 1-shot quali in reverse FP1 order. The track will have had 2 hours of cars lapping around it. The track evolution gained from 1-shot quali is going to be minimal, surely. Typically, you're going to get the slower car going out first and then build through it. Imagine if it starts raining halfway through. Well, imagine if it starts raining halfway through Q3. What happened to Kevin Magnussen? He set his lap and then it started raining more. Was that fair? You can't control every single variable, and 1-shot's no different to the way it is at the minute. It could rain halfway through a session now. So the thing is, a perfect qualifying system does not exist. You get traffic in Q1, Q2, Q3. You get changeable weather in Q1, Q2, Q3. You get tow from teammates, which could be deemed as unfair. This gets rid of some of those things. It doesn't get rid of all of them, and some potentially others it might make worse, but it's no less good of a system than what we have currently. It's just different. On the build-up lap, you get all the graphics on screen. Nick de Vries from the Netherlands, looking at the car, and a little bit of him talking about how he's feeling about the 1-shot. Sets off on the lap, follows it. We see it with we've seen it in both qualifying sessions for the first 2 races, where it's just been following Alex, because Alex has gone out at a weird time. And the camera feeds now, the quality of coverage you get following one car with the onboard, with the helmet cam, with all of the external cameras, the moving cameras that follow along. You can't tell me that F1 couldn't produce that in such a way that it makes a big song and dance about all of these laps. If a car bottles it into the wall, and yeah, maybe in that case, then it is, you wait until the car finishes their quick lap for then the next car to come out, because if someone does bottle it and crash, the session stops and the track's cleaned up or whatever, and then no one ruins their lap. No one's wasted a set of tyres by going out and doing their out lap and someone else has crashed. So then Saturday morning, FP2, you have your hour, crack on, but keep it clean, because 15-minute break after FP2. FP2 is the same, hour long, and then classic qualifying, Q1, Q2, Q3. To set the grid for the race on Sunday. Now, everyone loves Q1, Q2, Q3 qualifying, so no one's going to be complaining about that. And then PM, sprint race. I don't know whether it should be a quarter race distance or it should be 100 kilometres like it is. But then, for me, what the sprint needs is a mandatory pit stop. 2 softs, boom. Mandated pit stop adds a bit more. You could get some drivers stopping right at the start and try and get some clean air to drive in, or doing an Albon, waiting right to the end. For me, this system, because I'm keeping Sunday. Sunday can stay the same. Sunday I'm happy with. Sunday's all good. Competitive running on Friday. You've got both forms of qualifying. You've got a sprint race. You've got no less running time. It's a bit easier on the pit crews and the mechanics and all that. Again, Friday competitive running is going to happen. There is no point denying it or being like, oh no, I like it the way it is. It's going to change. We need to accept it. It's going to change. It's going to happen. So how do we make the best of it? Let me know all your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.